welcome as people are joining in right now. I am excited that you're here. We're going to be talking about pickup and delivery and the gig economy. And I am just super pumped. If you don't know who I am, I'll introduce myself in a second, but I'll just let you know that I'm Jordan Berry with Laundromat Resource. I'm going to be hosting this thing today. You're going to be getting the actual information from, some people who are, better at this than me. But real quick, as you guys are coming in, we're gonna give some people a couple minutes to kind of come in. But I love to hear, and we'd all love to hear before we kick this thing off, where are you guys tuning in from around the country, around the world, wherever you're in from. Let us know in the chat where you guys are tuning in from. We'd love to hear. All right, Indiana, New York City. All right, good. Yes, Seattle. We're already all over the map. Miami. All right, welcome, guys. New Jersey. Be looking for people who are in your area because those are your people, right? You want to connect with them. This webinar is going to be incredible. You're going to get some awesome information. You're going to meet some great people on the panel here in a second. But this is also an awesome networking opportunity. So be looking for people who are in your area and, maybe look to connect with some of them too. Bell, that's not too far from me in NorCal. Hey, Mike. All right. Look at this. We're all over the place, guys. This is awesome. We'll keep coming in. I want to let you guys know a couple of things before, again, I introduce the panelists and we get this thing kicked off. Number one, keep those locations coming in. And we want to hear where you guys are coming from. And the panelists are all over the map too. So awesome. We're on both coasts and representing all over the place. So, Waleed is in there. You'll meet him in a second. Okay. So while you guys are letting us know where you guys are all coming from, I just want to let you know a couple things. So number one, there's a couple things that we want to tell you before we jump into this thing, but by and large, this is not going to be a slide presentation. There's a couple slides we want to get through just to kind of get us all on the same page, set the stage. But then this is going to be a discussion with the real people who are in this business, doing this thing, and you're going to get to meet them. But also, we want this to be interactive. Okay, so as we're going through this thing, if you have questions that come up, either write them down, and at the end, we're going to do a Q&A part where these guys will answer some of your questions. Or if you just throw them in the chat, I'll keep my eye on the chat. I'll jot down your questions, and I'll make sure we revisit those things at the end after these guys talk about all the things that they're going to talk about today. All right? Deal? Give me a good thumbs up or something if you're tracking with me. And let me thank you, Amanda. Thank you. I appreciate it. Deal. We got a deal. Let me do this. Let me introduce myself, and then I'm going to introduce you to the panelists as people are still coming in. There's a whole bunch of people on this webinar today. We had, close to 300 people signed up. So this is awesome. Really exciting for everyone, I think, because this industry is undergoing a ton of changes right now. And this is one of the big ones that's just kind of come into our industry. And I don't know about you guys, but I am curious about how this is going to play out in our industry. And I want to hear from the people who are actually doing it already, what it's been looking like. So let me introduce myself, and then I'll introduce you to the panelists today who are going to be having this discussion. I am Jordan Berry. I run laundromatresource.com, and I host the Laundromat Resource podcast. And I also own a couple laundromats. I'm in the LA area, and I am just kind of engrossed in laundromats. And so I love this. My whole goal, my whole mission is to help laundromat owners have successful businesses, to be able to scale, people who want to get into this industry to be able to get in the right way. And just, I always say this on the podcast, but if you get in this industry the right way the first time, the sky is the limit. And I think that this, what we're going to be talking about today, how the gig economy is, has a potential to play in with our industry, even opens that up even further. Okay. So that's me. You can ignore, that and just, that's in passing. But who you really need to meet are these three people. The first one I want to introduce you to is Alex Jekowsky. He's the founder and CEO of Sense. I actually have a little bio. I had them all write me up a little bio. I'm going to read it to you, and then I'll tell you the real deal about these guys. But here's Alex, is the co-founder and CEO of Sense. And he's building a network of garment care small businesses in order to outsource laundry day in America to local businesses. He has already built and, built and scaled and then exited other businesses. He's a Forbes 30 under 30 recipient, and he's hell-bent on driving elevating this industry and growing the laundromat industry. And Alex is not only that, but he's an awesome guy and a former guest of the podcast, probably, the second best episode that there is out there. And you'll meet Alex. He's an awesome guy, super passionate about this industry, and super fun to talk to. So let's move over to Ariana Roviello. And she is an operator of a couple of stores in a couple laundromats in the San Francisco Bay Area. And she's been in the industry for about 5 years. Her brand is called Laundry, which is very, very fancy. Pinkies up, people. And her stores focuses on improving space, service, sustainability to help modernize the laundromat experience. She's got some beautiful stores. You'll see one of them here in a second in the background. And not only that, but doesn't even mention this in her bio, but probably the pinnacle of her life really is she was the most recent guest of the podcast, the Laundromat Resource podcast, and definitely better than Alex. I don't know. And then finally, let me introduce you to Waleed Cope. And he's the operator of the Soapbox. He's an experienced entrepreneur, investor, small business advisor. He runs multiple New York-based businesses, advises entrepreneurs and small business owners on operations, culture, growth, navigating success. As the owner of the Soapbox, Waleed has developed highly successful multi-million-dollar revenue businesses while advising new business owners and entrepreneurs on the benefits and challenges of entrepreneurship. Waleed is bringing the wisdom. I got, just before, while we were prepping for this, I got my own little webinar from Waleed, and I've already learned a ton from him. So you're going to love meeting each of these guys. And speaking of which, let me bring in Alex. And Alex, how's it going, man? How are you?
Oh, I'm great. Thanks so much for hosting, Jordan, and everybody who's, wow, it's a lot of people coming in, and just super excited to talk about this. It's a very hot button topic in the industry, and just really excited to be all together.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, my honor to host this. A lot of fun, and pretty awesome for me to get to talk to you guys. But can you kick us off here and just tell us a little bit about pickup and delivery, why, it's a big deal for laundromat owners, where we're kind of moving, just as a brief background, and then we'll get into, having this discussion here.
Yeah. And I think the best way I like to kick it off is just conceptually on delivery as a whole, how we see it in other industries. I think something that laundry has not been immune to is the changes in trends of consumer behavior, both on the labor side and how people like to work and like to have more control over their lives, but also in how they like to consume goods and services, and the ways that people have adjusted their value of time. That obviously everybody can see on the screen some of the fast facts of delivery, but I think COVID was not necessarily, as we describe it, something like it didn't act really as a change agent. It didn't change a consumer habit of liking things being delivered, low touch, on demand kind of experiences. So while it didn't change it, it really accelerated an already growing trend. I think we knew in laundry, pickup and delivery has been one of, if not the fastest growing side of the industry, that the industry as a whole doesn't grow exceptionally fast. It's relatively stable, which is what makes it so attractive as an investment. But the pickup and delivery side is what's really, really growing. And so, as a whole, there are just so many. I think, Waleed was telling me and the rest of us about this earlier today, that there are about 130 million workers in the U.S. 57 million of them are gig workers. So this is already increasing substantially again, and the pandemic was one reason for that. So there's a massive element of these gig workers that are working as on-demand labor as well as logistics already all over the country, and they continue to grow at a rapid rate this year and in the future. And as a market, is going to reach, $500 billion by 2023, close to that. And so while close to 50%, 40% of companies see gig workers being more integral in their business operations to be more dynamic with labor, this is something that has not touched laundry. And there are reasons for it because this industry is so unique in the fact that it's process oriented, that the way that you're receiving an item, you're receiving them in a different state than how you're going to deliver them back to that customer. And interestingly enough, if you look at two different restaurants, a burger at Burger King versus McDonald's, they're going to taste different. In laundry, Laundromat A and Laundromat B are going to have a relatively similar product, and the bar is relatively high to make sure that the quality of that product for what you're paying for it is going to be standardized. And so that's some of these unique natures of this industry that make it very difficult for just the gig economy to enter it. And we've seen, and we're going to hear some stories about how other operators have leveraged temp and on-demand labor. But we're going to dig a little bit deeper into the logistics, because while pickup and delivery is a huge growing side of this business, it's also a pain point for a lot of operators because it's high cost. You have to have the volume to deem it, to make business sense, to buy your van and hire your driver and own all of those costs yourself. And so we're going to talk about the complements that the gig economy can provide in your store in getting into the pickup and delivery business, testing it out, because there are so many dynamic structures that can exist through this kind of implementation of the gig economy.
Yeah. Awesome. And I think everybody's here because, we're interested to see how you're planning on integrating this and how it's working already, and, how it's been going. And we want to hear those stories. And that's what we're kind of here to talk about. So, listen, not only have we put together just an all-star panel here that's going to, has a ton of information, a lot to share, great stories to share. But I got to say, it's like one of the best looking panels I've ever seen in my life. And so, I don't want to do too much on slides. I want people to be able to see your faces. But real quick, Alex, can you, since it's putting this together, can you talk to us just a little bit about your motivation behind creating a pickup and delivery capabilities within Sense, and even, why you guys are in this industry in the first place?
Yeah, absolutely. As a background on why we're in this industry, I was first motivated around it when I went to a Coin Laundry Association, their Golden Gate chapter event in San Leandro, California. And I had just heard after I sold my last business that this was a great investment. Laundromats were great investments. I had read a little bit in the Planet Laundry and kind of tried to educate myself a little bit. And when my team and I went to this CLA event and we started talking to operators and understand not just the margins, but the kinds of businesses that you can build in this space, that's what first got us really, really engaged and excited. And then we started learning about the technology offerings that are available in this market to support business owners. And then started looking at other markets and seeing what is happening in the pizza shop industry, in the barbershop industry, with gyms and salons and other staples of Main Street, these small businesses, and how they've grown exponentially with the support of a partner in technology. And so that's really just with our team's background of building companies that have processed billions of dollars in transactions, that have supported thousands and thousands and thousands of large enterprise institutions, as well as small business owners. That's where we found that the mix of an amazing industry with amazing people, and our drive to focus on innovation and driving technology for this business. Because what we've learned, you can't build a generic product that works in laundry. There are so many nuances and so many different ways that operators run their businesses. Even on different stores, they can run it differently, that you really have to commit yourself to being a student of this industry and a part of this industry. And that's what we did for the first year, working inside of laundromats, having weekly calls with the attendants inside of stores, knowing what it means to run a self-serve, a pickup and delivery, an over-the-counter business, commercial, everything. You need to have that context, undoubtedly, to enter this space and to be able to be a partner with an operator. And it's been a privilege for us over the last, over a year and a half to work with hundreds of different operators all over the country and understand what is meaningful to them. For those of you who are customers on the phone or have taken demos with us in the past, you'll see 100% of our product is built by our customers. It's built by Ariana. It's built by feedback from Waleed. It's understanding how can we do things that are not just going to meet you where you are today, but going to grow with you and help you elevate your business and have new operating models, because that's what so many restaurants are able to take advantage of. So many barbershops are able to take advantage of new dynamic models because costs increase, labor gets more expensive. Consumers have higher and higher standards on the services they're supposed to receive, both in how fast they are, because everything is immediate now, with Amazon doing 1 hour shipping and same day shipping, and the high quality of the products, because you have big tech companies that if you order food online through Uber Eats and you don't like it, they just refund you the whole order because they've raised billions of dollars. Like there's this, the consumers have been, somewhat poisoned by this, but it goes back to the small business owner to still have to provide that same level of quality, of speed, and experience that these huge tech companies provide. And so that's the responsibility, and you'll hear that a lot at Sense. The responsibility of us is to give small business owners the same access to technology, to platforms, while empowering them in their businesses, the same access to technology that the big, huge billion-dollar businesses can provide. And the same way that we want to be able to create mobile ordering and that in-store experience that's as great as a Starbucks or Domino's. And Domino's would call itself a technology company that happens to deliver pizza. We want to be able to provide that same level of quality in service and technology to the operators at an exceptionally affordable price. And that's what got us really motivated and into this. And obviously pickup and delivery is a huge part of that. And I also would love, you'll hear me talk till I'm sense blue in the face about what we're doing in our product, but I'd also love to have Ariana and Waleed also share kind of how they got into this industry, because that's one of my favorite things, is being able to hear all of the different ways that business owners from different backgrounds and different businesses and different motivations have gotten into the industry and grown within it. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, first of all, awesome. And I love that. I think, trying to compete with, larger businesses and stuff like that. That's what I love about what you guys are doing with Sense and giving us, tools we need to be able to provide the services we want to provide to our customers and that our customers deserve. But Ariana, let's bring you in here, and we would love to hear a little bit about your experience. Like, how did you get into this, this business? A brief overview. If you want to hear the full story, go listen to a podcast episode. It's great. But give us a brief overview. How'd you get into this business? And then how'd you get into doing pickup and delivery?
So as you mentioned, I've been in the laundry industry, I guess, a little over 5 years, have 2 stores in San Francisco. And ultimately, I was a consumer that saw kind of a gap in the market or an opportunity, and felt like when I moved to the city for school, I kind of got pushed into using laundromats, which I was never familiar with previous to that. And so, my experiences were never stellar, and I thought, there must be like something we can do here to like improve this experience. And I feel like, especially now, we're such a like experiential economy. Like, you want to enjoy where you are. Like, I know that laundry is a chore, but like, how can we improve it by X amount times just to like make that hour and a half like not so dreaded? And so I actually ironically, I drove for Lyft for 2 full years while I got like the research together, the business plan, I raised the money, like all this stuff. And the reason I did that was because the flexibility allowed for me to like take meetings at weird times or like spend, this many hours a day working on business plan. And then I would like drive in the morning and drive in the evening. And so, yeah, I did that for, 2 years. And then like maybe 6 months before we opened, I kind of transitioned out of it, but it was like a really, really great resource for me in order to like have the flexibility, but still obviously have an income. Yeah, so then we opened our first store in 2017 and kind of what you said about me previously was like, what I really wanted to focus on was how do we elevate space? So like the space should feel like welcoming, safe, clean, all of those things. How do we elevate sustainability? Like that means what kind of products are we choosing to offer? Like what type of equipment are we using? And then ultimately service. So like I wanted fully attended stores, that means they can do process wash and fold. We offer free soap with every wash. So like there's someone there to answer questions about the machines. I know that like maybe using a laundromat for the first time can feel slightly intimidating. So someone's always there to like kind of help guide you. And yeah, so that's kind of how I ended up here.
Awesome. And again, she gets way more into it in the podcast episode, but very cool. And, we want to talk a little bit about more of that in a second, but Waleed, why don't you, give us a little background on you. How did you get into this industry briefly and, and going from self-service to pickup and delivery, which I know you made that transition.
Yeah, I wasn't as lucky as Ariana who decided to get into it on her own. So I grew up in the business. My dad actually started the laundry business. And it was kind of like a fluke. Him and my uncle were in business. They had supermarket in a meat market. And then they moved from one space to another and got the opportunity to buy a building in my childhood neighborhood. And when they purchased the building, they put their grocery store, supermarket in the front, and in the back, it had a barbershop and this laundromat. And my dad and my uncle were like, it's a laundromat. Let's just run it. We got the building and let's see what happens. So, fast forward, I'm born, I'm a kid running around in the laundromat, running around the grocery store. I'm just like, quarters, machines, water, whatever. Like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur with my dad. Fast forward years later, I worked with my dad in the business, like really got my hands involved in it, like cleaning out the slop sink, climbing behind machines. And then I was like, oh, look, money comes out of people's pockets. So I'm like crawling under machines, picking up money. But, as I grew, like I looked at the business differently than my dad did over time. So I've been in and out of the business with my dad for a while. And I would say around 2015, I came back with my partner, who's my wife, Jessica. And we made him an offer he couldn't refuse. And we brought him out. And I was like, listen, we want to carry on a tradition, but we're going to do it slightly different than what you're doing. But we want to respect what you started and the foundation you've laid. He had the business in the community like 25 plus years. So it's a lot of connection to the community. And that's one of the biggest drivers for us. But as I was doing it, to go to your point, Jordan, about how we transitioned, the space was so important for us. And I took over a store that was dated. So it was like, how do we, maintenance and doing all these different things and learning, being hands-on to save money and then improving the store over time. We noticed while we were doing it, that drop-off business was routinely doubling every month. And we were like, there's something here. And one day I'm in the store and, if you're familiar with New York City, like the old Chinese restaurants where you have to order through that plexiglass, like my dad was infamous for having the glass up. And I was like, can we move this? Like I want open space so we could interact. It was like that old bank look with the glass and you got to yell to the teller. And like, I was like, we need to move all this out. So we started doing that. But one day when I'm in the booth and we're doing some work and I'm just looking and I'm actually like, I felt like I was having an out of body experience. I could see the customers in the store like moving in slow motion. There were the customers who were putting their clothes in the machine. And then I'm watching customers coming in who are dropping off their clothes and they're like bumping into people or they're waiting for the attendant to run back and forwards. Got to the point we had 2 attendants in the store that was like, we were like, our store is like 2,300 square feet. And we've got 2 people running around because it was getting so busy. And I was like, the drop-off customer is totally different than a self-service customer. Why the heck are we servicing them in this one space? And we didn't have the luxury of having a huge store. Real estate is prime here in New York City. And 2, as Alex mentioned, there's a cost factor and there's the profits and the margins, you got to be careful in this business with your margins. And I called Jess and I was like, this thing with having 2 sets of customers in the same store, it's really starting to bug me. Like, we got to figure out how we can separate this in the space that we have. Maybe 2 days later, across the street, the real estate agent puts up a for lease sign on a commercial property right across the street from us. No sooner the guy hangs up the sign, I run out of the store and I'm like, can you take the sign down? I'll lease the space. Like, call the landlord. I kind of know the guy. Let's work this out. And I'd say, that was maybe mid 2016. From there, late 2016, we decided to have a totally different brand. We opened up the soapbox across the street in that location and dedicated it only to drop-off service as well as pickup and delivery. Had a few customers that transitioned from across the street, obviously, and they were like, oh, like, we thought you were having a competitor open up across the street. We're like, no, it's us. So then people like slowly started going, like, they wouldn't go at first because they thought it was a competitor. They were so loyal, which was awesome. We were able to attract more customers, and I'm sure we can talk about this later or in the future. Social media was our biggest friend when we first opened this space. And just getting it exposed and getting people to understand that you can just go somewhere and we'll do your laundry for you. You don't have to do it. And, fast forward to pre-COVID, we got to the point where we were using more of the store to do drop off and pick up and delivery orders. And the customers were going bonkers at me. Like, they were yelling, like, come on, can we get some machines? It got to the point we would shut down the store like 3 days a week and only do drop offs. And then the other days we would let customers walk in and use the store. And those days went from 3 to 4 to 5. And I was like, we'll only open the store on the weekends because that's when we're the busiest for walk-in. Then it got to a point where we were like, we're just going to move away from walk-in 100% and focus on delivery. And we only got into delivery. I remember it so vividly. There was a customer who would come in every day, older lady, and she would say, you should do pickup and delivery. And let me be absolutely clear, and Alex is probably going to get mad at me for this. I was so adamant about delivery. I was like, I'm never doing delivery. I don't want to deal with logistics, the drivers, the van. I don't want to deal with any of that crap. And this lady was like, if you did delivery, I would use you all the time. And I was like, yeah, whatever, grandma. And I don't know. She did this for at least maybe 8 to 9 times. The 9th time, it was 9 o'clock at night. I'm standing in the store and I just snapped. I was like, you know what? Okay, we'll do delivery. Just don't ask me anymore. I went home. I hacked up some order form, got some APIs, linked it up on our website. And I emailed everybody who was in our database and I put it on social. I was like, we now do deliveries. And before you know it, orders just started slowly coming in. And we transitioned from a few orders coming in back then to now. That's all we do now is walk-in and deliveries 100%.
Awesome. Crazy story. We'll get more into that. And, I'm kind of interested as somebody who has already a, kind of a booming pickup and delivery business, how, this gig economy thing integrates into that. So we'll get into that, but not yet. It's a little teaser for everybody there. Let me throw it back to Alex real quick. Alex, can you talk to me just a little bit about, you've been working with gig economy stuff. I know you have some friends in other industries who've been, integrating their stuff with gig economy workers. Can you talk a little bit about some of the biggest benefits or game changers about working with, gig economy companies, in particular, with laundry pickup and delivery, but also maybe if there's other industries that, are parallel or relate?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are so many great examples of how we see this in other industries. I think, again, the gig economy, and for those just, I know we throw around the word so much, the concept, and I put this in the Q&A chat, but the concept of a gig worker is a job-based worker, somebody that, think of an Uber driver who picks up somebody, drops them off. They got paid for that ride, but they're not a W-2 employee with a salary and everything like that. So it's the concept of giving people more flexibility with their time to be able to select the jobs they're going to do, and always making sure there's enough demand for the supply of those gig workers. So that's just kind of a high level of it. And if we focus on the restaurant industry, there's a company actually out of New York. It's a public company that, some of their executives are investors in Sense, and a company called Olo. And one of the products that they work with big restaurant chains that have complex, a lot of different kinds of orders that come through their systems, or they exist in many different metros. And so maybe Uber Eats doesn't exist in such a great presence as maybe Caviar does, or Grubhub does, or DoorDash does. And so what they do is they take orders in from all different areas, or they'll take an order in from the website of a restaurant, and then they'll spit it out to 10 different gig economy gig economy logistics companies. And those companies will bid and present, here's the price that we can do this order for. And they'll automatically show that to the end consumer and create that order for the restaurant. And so the concept of being able to not just say, hey, we work with this company and this is who we use, but our job as a technology platform is to aggregate the best logistics options for the operator. That could very well be your own van, your own drivers, your own logistics, your own route. And it could very well be companies like Uber and DoorDash and other logistics partners. And maybe it's even localized couriers. We work with a company in New York called Breakaway Courier, and they have bike messengers and vans, and they're not a gig company, but the concept is they can provide logistics without the CapEx, without the upfront cost and the ongoing cost of managing a fleet of your own drivers. And there certainly is a volume-based aspect to this, that when you do enough in volume, absolutely it makes sense to have your own drivers. And if you really want to spend that money, there are many other kind of components to where having your own drivers and your own vans and your own logistics makes sense. But what we think about is, how can we present operators new opportunities and options, and provide that optionality so you can choose. We have operators that have both their own drivers, and a customer through the online order form can select a pickup window, and they're maybe less frequent, but a pickup window directly with their own drivers. Or if they want it on demand within 30 minutes or an hour of placing that order, they want somebody to come to their house, pick it up and drop it off at the laundromat. Or when that laundry is completed processing and ready for return delivery, they don't want to wait until 8 p.m. that night for their stop on the route of that operator's drivers, but they need it because they got a hot date, or they have an event they need to go to, or they are on their last pair of underwear for the last 3 days and they need their laundry back. Then they have the opportunity to get that on demand. And the point is, there's just never a cost to the operator associated with that. But in terms of, and I see a question coming in right now in terms of quality control and a courteous driver, clean looking. The beauty of it is, these drivers are doing this already for huge companies, for restaurants. They're delivering food, and food, you're gonna eat that. You're assuming they're not doing anything to the food, or they're stealing the food or anything like that. And so these drivers go through extensive background checks. They're tracked on their phone. We know exactly where they are. And a lot of our partners actually provide liability coverage to any order in a much different way than is an opportunity for you and your own drivers. And so I think it's such a unique opportunity. And one of the reasons that this industry hasn't seen it before is because Postmates and DoorDash and Uber, you can't just get a tablet from them the way a restaurant can. Laundry has a process. It may start at your location, and maybe you send it to a plant or separate processing center, then it comes back to you. Maybe it starts in one bag, they give you a garbage bag, and then it rips and you have to put it in 2 separate bags. Maybe, there's a real process. It's going to go through multiple machines, maybe by different employees. It's going to take 24, 48 hours, or sometimes longer. Maybe it's laundry and dry cleaning. There are different components and nuances that make it very difficult for a generic system to come out there and provide this service. So this opportunity has always been there, but it's just been waiting for a platform like Sense that is that operating system inside of the store that tracks all of those elements and ties into your point of sale and your and your back end, business manager, and now can bring in these logistics providers also without them taking 30% of an order the way that happens in restaurants and other industries. And so, those are some of the things I think are so exciting about this. But, we hear from Ariana and Waleed on how they've utilized this program, both, Ariana, who didn't have drivers, and Waleed that does. But the concept of this is one symbol and one example of what technology companies have the responsibility of doing for this industry and for you as the operator, is to give you optionality. It doesn't mean fire your drivers, only leverage DoorDash and Uber, or localized courier. It doesn't mean that this is something that's so foreign and scary that you shouldn't even begin to think about pickup and delivery. There are so many ways that you can mold this into your business, and that's what I'm excited for everybody to hear, from Ariana and Waleed on how they've been able to leverage it.
Yeah, well, let's jump into that, because I think that's interesting that Ariana, you didn't even offer pickup and delivery, right, before this option to partner with the gig economy. So can you talk about why you didn't, and then why you decided to integrate that once you had that option available to you?
Yeah, similar to Waleed, I just did not want to touch delivery with like a 10-foot pole. It's like, we're a small team. It's like a pretty intimidating, like, business model, right? Like, I didn't have any experience in like the logistics, and then also to Alex's point earlier, like, it's a pretty big upfront cost if you don't know that the demand's going to be there right away. And so I just kind of was like, that's not what we're doing. And then, when I was approached by Sense about a year ago, and they kind of told me what was in the pipeline, and like, I was like, okay, that could be really, really interesting, because, I really try to push us being as modern as possible. And so to be able to like cater to our customers in a new way like that on demand without really having to do anything at all, has been really great. It's fairly new for us. We've launched it like a few weeks ago, but what's been really great is that, of course, like personal wash and fold, people ordering from their house, pickup delivery is great, but we've also been able to secure additional commercial accounts, which is great because that's consistent revenue, that's coming in. But like most commercial accounts, like we do have some that have like their own driver or like kind of logistics that pick up from us, but ultimately like they don't want to do that, which is fair. And so I think in like the few weeks that we've had DoorDash live, we've been able to secure, I think, like a half a dozen new commercial accounts, and that's just like keeps increasing. And yeah, it's been really, really great.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think it's a good point too. It's one of the things I think is really interesting about the concept is that, especially if you already have a drop-off service, it essentially just extends the radius of your drop-off service without adding the logistic part of your business, which is interesting. So I don't want to answer this question yet, but I'm going to tease it a little bit. So we'll get there in the Q&A at the end here, but there's a question about, pricing and who pays and how much and all that. So, we'll get there to that in a second, because I think it's a really interesting question. But before we get to that part of it, Waleed, can you tell us a little bit about, how are you, who has an established pickup and delivery business, how are you utilizing gig economy, to, I guess, maybe supplement your pickup and delivery?
Oh, wait, Waleed, you're on mute.
Sorry, guys. And ladies, it's funny you mentioned it, because I got an email from a client. So we just started doing the experimentation with the gig economy and Sense, using the DoorDash model in conjunction with our drivers. So we've been just piloting it with a few clients. And it was interesting because I got an email from a client who was like, yeah, I want to do a pickup, like laundry's piling up, but our routes were full. All of our drivers' routes are packed. And he's like, I really need a pickup, and we couldn't squeeze it in without making the other orders late. So I was like, listen, we've got this new platform. We're still experimenting with it. I'm willing to send you the link, try it out. Like, don't hold it against me if things go kind of sideways here. So I sent the link to him. He uses it. He sends me back this nice email and he's like, this is awesome. And the one thing he says to me is, I hope you didn't fire Mr. Davis because I see you have DoorDash now. And Davis is the normal driver on his route that picks it up. And to go back to what Alex is saying, I don't truly believe at all one replaces the other. One complements the other. And if you're running your business in a way that you're looking, let's say, to grow your business, and whether you want to grow it a little bit or a lot, you need different tools in your toolkit to optimize that business, to grow it, to make it more efficient, to make it more lean. Because let's all be clear here. We all know what the margins are like in the laundry business. And there's very little room for error. You mess up someone's clothes and you need to compensate them. And you're not going to use your insurance and you want to do it yourself. You've eaten up a good portion of profits, depending on what type of garment that was that you need to replace, or you need to comp them, or whatever the case might be. So I see it as another tool to complement what we're already doing. And here's one of the things I think it's totally awesome. When you're running a route, we've got 12 people on our team between attendants and drivers. And let's make no mistake, I got 2 small stores and I got 12 people running around here. My payroll is through the roof. All right. And let's not talk about taxes and all these other things in the city and the state. Like, we can have a whole nother podcast on that. Okay. That might be a topic for Laundry Resource, right? There you go, Jordan. But here's one of the challenges when you have your own drivers. You're always trying to figure out, where do you send them next to get more business? Because you want to optimize. Think of it as your washers. You need as many turns as you can in a day so you can make the most money out of these machines you can. The driver is the same way. How many orders can I get him to pick up in this amount of time? And I studied a lot of places out there. People had, these 4-hour routes. I've seen places that have 8-hour routes and the driver just drives around all day. And I was like, that ain't going to work in the city. We do 1-hour pickup and delivery windows. And I'm always looking, how long does it take the driver to get in? And one of the reasons I really figured it out, I did all of our pickup and delivery for the first year and a half when we started. When I tell you that lady was like, you should do delivery, I was the delivery guy for a year. I wake up early, do the morning routes, go to the office, do work it there, leave, go back home, change clothes, run to the store. Sometimes I didn't change, so I'm delivering laundry in a suit. People are like, damn, this laundry service is really high class. And I like load up my car and I would go and I do the evening, and I learned a lot. But the thing with the drivers, you just don't know sometime when to start opening up new routes, because it's hard to get that data. Like, you can send out surveys, you can send out advertisement, you can try and do it. But when people want to make an order, you want to be there for them. And here's where I truly believe the gig economy comes in huge. There's other aspects. Don't think this is the only one, but this is just like a nugget here for someone who's already doing delivery, is testing new areas. You can go in, turn on another zip code or draw another geofence, whatever the method is you want to use to identify your area. I might have given a few ideas to Alex to put on the product roadmap real quick. Yeah. But you turn it on and you start advertising in that area. You didn't have to hire another driver. You didn't have to get another van or whatever vehicle you want to use. I didn't have to increase my maintenance cost of my fuel. I turned it on. Some gig economy workers start going into that area. And then I saw the comment, people were talking about quality control and all those different aspects. Okay, so if you're super concerned about that and respect, I get it, because I'm on that too. Like, I want them in uniforms. I want them greeting the customers a certain way. But you test that neighborhood with the gig economy and you see, you know what, there's traction there. It makes sense. And then you deploy your drivers into that area, and then you go really hard with the marketing and advertising. And then when your route fills up, you don't see it's enough to go to another area. Let me use the gig economy again in that same area and get a little more juice. And then when it's enough, take those profits, reinvest them, and go into the next area. Test it with the gig economy, and then send your drivers in. I look at it, it's not one or the other. I truly believe it's both. And that's what we're seeing, and that's what we're doing. And we're seeing some promising results, but it's still early for us. And I'm really going to kick the tires and run this machine really hard. But I think it's a good way for a small business to grow. And listen, Ariana is a classic example. Like, there's no better case than that. You have no drivers. You don't want to take the capital and put it into vans and all that equipment, and you want to start doing delivery. I mean, look, she's got, you just say, Ariana, did you say 12 new commercial accounts or 10?
I had like 6 in just like a couple weeks, which usually takes a much longer time to do that. Yeah.
Right. I would challenge almost any laundry owner to, whether they're in this forum or somewhere else later on when they watch the replay, to talk about getting 6 commercial accounts in that short period of time. It's no easy task. And even if you get them, now you got to set up the logistics, right? It's very challenging.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. I don't want to.
Yeah. Well, what I find really interesting is that, Ariana is using, this capability, this gig economy integration to essentially, expand the radius of her fluff and fold service for right now, and maybe give her an opportunity to scale if she ever wants to into the logistics side of it. And Waleed is using it to actually scale his logistics business and test out new areas and utilize that until, he has enough, enough clients in a certain zip code or geofence or route or whatever to be able to, hire somebody to take that on. So they're using it in 2 very different ways, which is pretty interesting, and kind of more diverse than I had originally, even considered when I first heard the concept. So I like the both and method and utilizing both, offering both. And, I like the way that you're strategically using it, Waleed, in order to really, test out new areas. And, data, it's all about data, right? Like we got to have good data to make good business decisions. And so utilizing the gig economy to gather some of that data is pretty powerful.
Jordan, I hate to cut you off real quick. Don't lose that train of thought. But I just see someone put in the chat, it's hard to put 100 pounds of laundry in the Toyota every day. Let me be absolutely clear here. I did delivery for 1.5 years with a Mini Cooper. And I picked up 6 orders an hour in New York City and packed the car. So if there's a will, there's a way. So if I had a Toyota, I probably would have got more orders in the car than driving a Mini Cooper. I drove a Mini Cooper and packed it, picked up 6 orders within an hour, and I was running 6-hour route windows. So you picture that 6 orders in an hour, and that's both pickup and delivery. So we were running a combination of both in that. So there's a way to do it. It's the question is if you're going to have the open-mindedness, if you're going to have the wherewithal to figure it out and go through that process. It's intimidating and it's hard. But once you get into it, and I'm willing to bet, if Ariana and I were having tea or coffee later on, and we're laughing and talking about like, yeah, I thought this logistics was going to be, it's intimidating. But once you kind of get into it and start doing it, you're like, damn, it really wasn't as hard as I thought it was. So cramming 100 pounds into a Toyota, it ain't as hard as you think it is. Just wanted to put that out there. Sorry, Jordan.
Yeah, actually, I think it's an important point, and it's also why we've built the kind of relationships and partnerships that we've had. Is these are not new concept to us in terms of how do we prepare drivers, how are they educated on this, how do we work with our partners. We've thought about everything. What about the smell of a bag that could possibly be in there? What if the one kind of bag doesn't work and it rips and it gets to the store? And so we've thought about all these unique use cases, and we share this with our partners. And the difference is because we are the system of record, we know everything of what's happening. We're able to expose information to drivers ahead of time and be able to present these best practices. But also, these drivers don't get paid per hour. They want to do as many routes as frequently all the time. When they say no to a route or say no to a pickup, they are not subsidizing that with something else. So these drivers and companies are always looking for new things that they can do. And a lot of these drivers are also doing routes they're doing things for Home Depot, and they're doing things for large appliance companies. And so they're already happening. In many cases, laundry can be one of the lighter items that they're bringing that's not food. And so the general concept is there's always going to be reasons to be afraid of change and afraid of new things. Our message to our operators and to people in this industry is learn, try, because especially in this, you don't have to have an upfront investment. The cost associated, I know this was a question that somebody had asked earlier, is what is the cost breakdown? How does it work? Well, essentially, The baseline model is when a customer selects on demand, if that's the only option, that's the only thing that'll appear, or if they're selecting on demand versus maybe a pickup window from your own routes. But when they select on demand, based on the address they've already put in, we're able to algorithmically, through our integration with these providers, present the immediate cost, what it actually costs the driver to pick it up, $4.40, $6.50, whatever it might be for that pickup or delivery. And so the customer knows that ahead of time and pays for it. So the customer is the one that's covering the cost. It has cost you nothing to do that. Now, one of the things that's important for us as a business is to think about how can we help you make more money? How can we create products? How can we really create products that are going to, without a big shift on the consumer, without gouging a consumer, incentivize them to spend more money along the way? And so part of our product is the idea of a subsidy. Now, you can make a margin. You can charge on top potentially of an order, but you can also subsidize it. You tell a customer, hey, if you spend $50 with me, I'll subsidize your on-demand delivery cost by $3. So maybe if your average order was $35 and you were able to get that to 45 or get that to 50, and it costs you $3 to do that, I think that's an investment a lot of folks would make every day of the week. And so when we look at other industries and other products and other companies, one of the things that Slice in the pizza shop industry did is helped take from the phone orders and orders coming in on fax by digitizing them. They took the average order of $24 and got it to $31, right? How can we find ways to incentivize customers to spend more through a better quality service? Because in laundry, yeah, we can add a lavender spritz and we can add some different modifiers to it, but it's laundry. You can't offer somebody a million toppings and an extra large pizza and all these other components. So how do we find ways based on the existing order and the kind of order that they're placing to incentivize them to spend more? And so much of that is a better customer experience and giving them better optionality in the kind of product or service they're selecting.
Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, we've talked a lot about this, and I want to open this up because I know some of you guys maybe have questions. So throw those in the chat right now. If you guys have some questions, I want to make sure you have a chance to ask Ariana questions, ask Waleed some questions about their experiences. If you have questions for Alex specifically, you can ask Alex also. But as you know, we wait for some questions to roll in. I just want to, first of all, say thank you guys for sharing your experiences with us. And, Alex, you and the team, thanks for, thinking of this industry and putting this stuff together. But, in addition to that, I just, I wanted to say thank you guys for sharing this knowledge and this wisdom, right, with this group, because, I say this all the time, but, when we're sharing information, Waleed, when you're sharing how, you're integrating gig workers into your existing pickup and delivery business. And Ariana, when you're sharing how you're starting a pickup and delivery service using gig workers, that is stuff that helps other owners. And that's why I think all of these people that are here right now are here. So huge shout out to you guys. And thank you. Let's jump in with a couple questions that are rolling in right now. Some of them specific about Sense, some of them, specific about your situations. But Alex, maybe real quick, maybe you can share, the cost of Sense system and or how people can find out more about the cost there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I can knock out two questions in one. Somebody was asking, how do we, what are the next steps? How do I see how it really works, the whole system, the whole flow and pricing? The best way to do that really is to get on a demo. And I say this on, we did the laundry innovation showcase with the CLA last week. And I said to everybody, no matter what company you're looking at, whether it's Sense or something else, we believe we're the best system for you, but whatever system you decide to choose, Sense or something else, take a demo, get to know the people behind the product, get to know how the product works, and not just what features it has, but why and how they were built. Because when you start to understand why we've built the things that we've built in the way that we've built them, you'll get to know, a little bit more about what we think about the industry and how we really want to support our operators. So we'll be sending out an email after this with more information and a follow-up from the webinar, as well as a link to try a demo. And there are a lot of promos that we're doing for the point of sale hardware and things like that for anybody that participated in this. But trysense.com/demo. You can see a link in the chat right there. That's going to be the best way where you can actually see this live. We'll tell our salespeople to have a laundry bag ready for their driver to pick it up, hopefully while they're on the demo, because it can come that fast. So that's going to be the best way to get pricing and understand actually how it works. And alongside with that, you're also going to see, as part of the flow, there is a way that you can actually tip the gig driver, not just the order itself. And so customers are prompted that they have the ability to give a tip, or theoretically they could type in 0 to the driver who's picking it up, but they still have the ability to tip the store and the operator and the location itself for the order. So they have opportunities to do it twice. If they had any questions there. Oh, Jordan, you're on mute.
Sorry, real quick, Alex, while you're feeling it right now, Matthew asked you a question. He said during COVID, pickup was not offered by gig workers. Are there going to be issues with the pickup part of pickup and delivery?
No, that was a thing that one company in particular had an issue with. And now that we're seeing that the pickups are available, they're happening today. I've done it myself. I was able to send my laundry to Waleed at his store through our pickup partner in that location. So it's absolutely possible. It does work. It is correct that it was not possible in many ways during COVID, as we were really seeing a different kind of landscape in logistics and the pickups, because we really didn't know that much on how COVID would spread. But something really unique also, somebody mentioned, you want to have a relationship with your driver, but a part of our product is you can select both for the drivers, if you have them yourself, or through our pickup partners, is the ability to leave it at my door, right? I'll leave it at my door, pick it up. I want contactless delivery, because there is a concern from customers that they don't necessarily, vaccinated or not, they don't want to interact with more people if they don't have to. And so it has been an important part to make sure that's a function and an availability for both sides of the gig economy, and not to enable that contactless pickup opportunity for both. And the driver, whether it's DoorDash or any other system, is going to be able to get information. What unit number? What are the instructions that they're supposed to get? What apartment should they buzz? And when they enter the store, they know the order information and the customer information that's already on the tablet. And so it's a completely unified experience. You're never taken out to go anywhere else. It's all embedded within the Sense operating system that you have available in your store.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Ariana and Waleed, here's a question for you guys. Can you just talk about how pricing works with you guys? Are you charging anything different for pickup and delivery service when a gig worker is using it? Are they paying, the same amount as if they had dropped it off, but, plus a delivery fee? Or how does that work for you guys for your structuring the payments?
Yeah, sure. So currently what we're doing, if you're ordering delivery, the price is the same as if you were to drop off. And we're kind of doing that right now to kind of get people used to it, try it, and all that stuff. And we're also subsidizing kind of that DoorDash fee for a limited time, because I just want people to try it. I think so far we've seen that once they do, there seems to be some repeat business, which is great. And then we might change the model in the future where maybe it's a little bit extra if you're doing delivery for that added convenience. But ultimately, I want to strive for making the delivery fee as low as possible. But that's what we're doing right now.
Waleed, what about you?
On our side, it's a little different. So I feel like I might get some heat for this one. But we have two pricing tiers. And I was listening to Ariana, and it sounds like she's going to be making some tweets later, because she's like, in the beginning, we're doing this. So that was awesome to hear. So we offer two pricing tiers. If you drop it off at our store, it's one price. And if we pick it up and deliver, it's another price. And we're super transparent with all of our pricing and all of our cost and add-ons and additions. We put it all on the website. It's all on the walls in our store when you come in. Like, we believe in being super transparent, but we felt pricing it from talking to our clients and then looking at our expense to say we have one price for pickup and delivery and, one price for walk-in. But, with that, I want to talk Gary, who's going to be my new laundry BFF. In chat, I see he mentioned, I talked about picking up all this laundry in Mini Cooper, and he brought up a great point. I'm the owner. I'm going to have a totally different mentality than the gig worker. He's spot on with that. But what we've seen, and it's still very early, and Alex talked about it, there's a tip feature in it. And I'm looking to say, how much can I drive the delivery cost down, as Ariana said, for our clients? And then also, what can I do for these gig workers? I don't think people realize, like, COVID has put a lot of gig workers out of work, as well as regular 9 to 5. So I'm always looking at how can we employ as many people as possible, whether they're on our books, 9 to 5, regular team member, and now this gig model. Like, I want to put as many people to work as possible. For me, being a business owner, that's the biggest flex. It's not about how much money I make. How many people can I put to work? Like, I go to meetings, that's what I'm talking about, Jordan. I go to meetings and people are like, oh yeah, we gross this amount. And like, I hear people throwing out numbers and I'm like, that's a lot of commas. But I'm just like, I put 300 people to work every week when I run payroll and all my businesses. So to me, I'm like, how do I get more gig workers? So to Gary's point, he's like, yeah, it's my car. It's a lot of wear and tear. They're carrying it. Here's a true story that happened. And then I'm going to be quiet with this one. Gig worker shows up to pick up laundry for a brand new customer that we just happen to get through this gig model that we're experimenting with since. Customer sends 4 huge bags of laundry, over 150 pounds easy. The gig worker takes it. The customer texts me and was like, yeah, the DoorDash guy picked it up and was like, what is this? He brought it to our store and the customer texted me. He was like, yeah, he's probably going to be a little pissed at you when he gets there. I was like, oh, I'm sorry if he was rude to you. He was like, no, the Dasher was very professional. They were dressed neat. They were everything. He said he was just a little like, what is this laundry thing going on? I'm used to food or groceries. So he said he's going to be pissed. He wasn't pissed at me. He was very professional. He gets to the store. He drops off the 4 huge bags and I'm smiling because I can't wait to put him on the scale. And you could see he's a little like confused, frustrated, and perturbed. And Gary, this is exactly what I said to him. He was like, this is a lot of stuff. You know how to carry it? I was like, my friend, we're going to make a lot of money together. And he looked, and then he looked at the tip in the app and he smiled and he was like, I'll see you soon. And it's about building that relationship and saying, as operators, how much more can we do to help grow this? How many more people can we employ? How many more customers, how many more clients can we service? So it's about, I'm looking at the gig workers. How can I almost treat them as an extension of my existing team? So every time they see one of these orders pop up in our area, they want to hit that accept button fast. Like, it's a tip. They're going to be courteous to me when I come in. They let me use the restroom when I come in. Like, think about it. Where do the gig workers go to the bathroom? Like, if they're really out there hustling, they might run home for a minute, but if they go home, they lose an order. So they come into Ariana's store. They come to my store and I'm like, hey, listen, you want a bottle of water? Like, you thirsty? Hey, you need to use the restroom? That goes a long way. And it builds a different relationship and bond. And I see it at the food restaurant. There's a food restaurant 6 blocks away from me. And I talked about this to Alex. They've got Uber Eats, DoorDash, Post. They line up outside in the rain, the snow, the sleet. And I'm like, what are they doing in there that they have all these people lined up? And like the Dashers and them, they're happy about it. They're like, we're getting orders. So how do we take that same mentality and pass it over into the laundry industry, who's unfortunately been so slow to adapt to technology and changes? And I think this is a huge win for especially small operators who don't have the reach like these big tech laundry firms that are coming in with all this money, and they're, got all these drivers running around, however they procure them, working with them, whether 1099 or W-2, et cetera. It gives the SMB a huge advantage to get into this. There's going to be a whole new dog in this fight with SMBs now. Like, best believe it. You just have to leverage it. So yeah, that's you, Gary, my new laundry BFF.
I love that. I love that. Listen, there's a lot of questions that have come in that we have not gotten to. But here's the good news. Okay. The good news is that this is only meant to start a conversation. Okay. This is not meant to be the authoritative, here's everything there is to know, because number one, this is a new thing in our industry. So it's going to continue to evolve as people like Ariana, people like Waleed, and people like you start to integrate this into their businesses and find new innovative ways to utilize this to help you grow your business and to increase, not just your bottom line, but also increase your service capabilities to your customers and make a bigger impact on your community and on more people. So here's the thing. I want to invite you guys to continue on the conversation. There's a few different ways that you can do that. Number one, and the best way to continue the conversation is, and Eli, maybe you can put a link again to continuing the conversation with somebody from Sense. And there's a link. Thank you, Eli. So there's a link right there. You can click on that. It's a demo page, but more than that, it's an ability for you to talk with the actual people who've put this together, who have spent, their time, energy, effort into thinking about this, into conversing with laundromat owners about this and putting together this product to help you, grow your business. So have a real life conversation with them. And not only that, but also see the software. So continue that conversation there. So that's number one. Number two, Ariana's, I don't mean to keep plugging her podcast episode, but it's a really great episode. And she shares a lot of really great stuff about not just her story, but also her experience in the industry. So you can learn a lot there. I know I'm going to have to snag Waleed. He hasn't been on the podcast yet, but he's primed and ready for it. I can tell I won't have any problems drawing any conversation out of him. And so, we'll have him on there too. But the main takeaway here is that there are a lot of different ways that you can utilize Sense or the gig economy into your business. And, right now, in this webinar, you heard a couple different ways that that's happening right now and how that's working and how quickly that's been working for these guys. Thanks, Eli, right there. Alex, I want to just, leave it with you and let you kind of wrap this thing up. But again, panelists and everybody, just thank you guys for joining us today. Ariana, Waleed, thank you for sharing your experience and your stories. And if there aren't questions if we didn't get answers to all your questions, you have more questions, Ariana's email address is in the comments. We'll try to get Waleed's email in the comments too, so you guys can reach out to them, and you know how to get a hold of Alex. Also, click on that link up there. So Alex, why don't you take us home? And thanks again, man.
Absolutely. And one thing I'll mention for the folks that are still on, and I don't even know if Waleed and Ariana know this yet, but with one of our logistics partners and gig economy partners, we're going to be announcing tens of thousands of dollars and potentially even hundreds of thousands of dollars in subsidized deliveries costs that Sense is going to provide our operators. So at no cost to you at all, this is something that we're going to be pushing for you. So you don't have to spend the money subsidizing these deliveries. We can introduce this to you and actually help subsidize that cost and give, like I said, tens and hopefully as we continue negotiating this deal, hundreds of thousands of dollars in subsidized deliveries, because we really feel passionately that this is an opportunity that we want operators to explore. And that's really the message of Sense, and our responsibility is to provide optionality and give operators the ability to explore new business models, explore new in-store initiatives, delivery initiatives, ordering processes, labor structures. We of course need to provide the best point of sale and best software product that we do in the industry. But that is the tip of the iceberg for really what we're trying to accomplish with our partners being our customers. So really appreciate everyone listening in. A huge shout out to Jordan, who must have been born to do this. I mean, just incredible. He pulls the best out of everybody. And everybody, please go listen to the Laundromat Resource. It's my favorite resource. That's where I get to learn a whole bunch. And thank you, Ariana and Waleed, for sharing your stories and being part of the Sense family, and also just being a resource for everybody else, because that's the beautiful thing about this industry, is it's such a community and people willing to learn and engage with each other. And we want to be as open to that as possible. We don't always have all the answers, but usually someone in our network and somebody in our community does. And so please, if you're interested in learning more, you want to have a conversation with me, our product team, our sales team, anybody, reach out, take a demo. You know, if you don't want to see the product, you just want to talk, sign up, put some information on what you'd like to discuss. And we'd love to engage with anyone and show you how this thing works, because it all sounds great, but it looks even better. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining and for your time. Looking forward to connecting and hearing your feedback. And again, thank you so much for our amazing panelists and host.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys.